Welcome to Crafted Nest. Imagine walking into your backyard and harvesting everything you need for today's meal. Crisp mustard greens, bright pak choy, even cauliflower, all grown in containers you once threw away. On this episode from Crafted Nest, we explore 23 truly doable real-life DIY gardening ideas that turn even abandoned corners into edible oases. These aren't just pretty Pinterest hacks. These are soulful, practical garden designs from someone who's lived them. From upcycled sack gardens to compost bins that bring butterflies back to your doorstep. If you've ever dreamed of growing your own food, even with zero land, this video will guide and inspire you, one container at a time. Don't forget to subscribe to Crafted Nest for more real-world DIY gardening inspiration you can actually do, and turn your home into the sanctuary it's meant to be. There's something deeply noble about growing food in what others throw away. An old rice sack, tore at the seams and faded from sun and rain, stands tall in Bunda Radhika's garden. Inside it, green life rises. Soy putty, crisp and pale veined, ready for harvest. She fills each sack with soil built from her own compost, layered with dry leaves and kitchen scraps. The sacks lean slightly with age, patched in places with twine or cloth. But the plants don't seem to mind. They flourish. The mustard greens push up with quiet strength, their leaves wide and textured like crinkled paper. She waters them in the early hours, when the air is still cool and the light soft. By late morning, their scent joins a chorus of basil, lemongrass, and earth. It's not a large garden, nor a perfect one, but it's honest. Neighbors pass by and ask, "Can you really grow that much in just a sack?" She smiles, pulling a full head of mustard from the soil and answer. "More than enough," she says, "for today's stir-fry and tomorrow's soup." The sacks, once destined for dump, now cradle food that feeds a family. No fancy pots, no manicured beds, just reuse, resourcefulness, and resolve. If you have a sack, you have a start. Cut small drainage holes. Fill with hope and good earth. Then tuck in your seedlings and wait. In time, your garden will whisper the same quiet truth. It's not about what you have. It's about what you grow from it. Not all gardens are dry. Some shimmer, reflecting the sky, and plastic bottles turn ponds. In Bunda Radhika's corner, tucked beside a wall where the sun comes softly in the morning, grow rows of ginger, a humble green once meant for muddy fields, now reimagined. She lifts a blue-handled bucket, filling the reused water gallons with care. The roots of ginger dangle and wave like dancers in clear, shallow pools. No soil is needed, just light, time, and the memory of the swamp the plants once called home. This isn't just gardening. It's adaptation, a way of saying, even without earth, we grow. The bottles are nothing special. Some are old water jugs, others formerly held cooking oil. Their shapes are mismatched and their surfaces scratched. But each cradles life now, leaves unfurling toward the light, the gentle ripple of water, giving motion to stillness. Neighbors used to pass by with polite curiosity. Now they stop. They ask. They remember old recipes. They want to try. Bunda shares her method freely. First, a layer of dried leaves or coconut husk. Then water halfway full. Then the young ginger, tucked in like sleeping children. They don't need much, she says. Just kindness. And with every harvest, soft green bundles ready for stir-fry or coconut curry. She proves it, that even a used plastic bottle, often discarded, can become a cradle for nourishment. Try one, just one bottle. Place it in a sunny spot, let the water dance, and watch what happens. In time, you'll find something sacred growing, not just a plant, but a sense of quiet possibility. Not all harvests come in the form of leaves or fruit. Some arrive later, quieter, held in the whisper of a pod, the promise of a future leaf. In one forgotten corner of her garden, Bunda Rajika let her samhong grow tall and wild, flowering past its prime, not for food, but for seed. The stalks stretched upward like soft fireworks, bursting into yellow blooms. Bees gathered faithfully each morning, their legs dusted in gold. And as the days passed, the flowers curled into pods, slender, dry, waiting. She watched them ripen under sun and wind. No scissors, no rush. Just time doing what time does best, preparing something small and vital. When the pods turned brittle and the seeds inside began to rattle with every breeze, she gathered them, not all at once. One pod here, one stalk there. She cupped them in her palm, specks of black and brown, tiny but potent, each holding the memory of the plant that came before it. She labeled the packets in soft pencil. Samhong, April harvest. Some she would plant again. Others she would give away. A gift not just of food, but a beginning. Seed saving isn't urgent. It's an act of slowness, of legacy. A quiet rebellion against buying the same packet every season. A way of telling your plants, I remember you. So if you have a leafy green that bolts before you're ready, don't mourn. Let it bloom. Let it finish its story. Then gather what it leaves behind. A garden, after all, is not just a space. It's a memory passed from one seed to the next. There was a time when the garden felt too quiet after dark. Not peaceful, but anxious. Shoots were chewed. Leaves vanished. In the hush of the night, the garden whispered distress. Rats, unseen but present, left signs. But Bunda Rajika, true to her calm approach, did not fight them with traps. She built a border of scent. Lemongrass first, tall, fragrant, a sentinel in blades. Then basil, rich with perfume and pollinators. Mint took root eagerly, spreading its soft carpet along every edge. And chives, with their sharp green stalks and onion-like sting, filled the gaps. She didn't shout the pests away. She whispered to them through plants. Not here, and it worked. Herbs became walls, not concrete, but of sense and aversion. The rats turned elsewhere, confused by the smells, disoriented by the textures. Meanwhile, her vegetables rested safe, surrounded by fragrance. By day, the garden buzzed with life. Bees nestled in basil blooms. Butterflies brushed the mint. The herbs were never just guards. They were ingredients, too. Bunda plucked a lemongrass stalk for her soup, a fistful of mint for iced tea, chives for her omelet. Every protection doubled as nourishment. The garden healed quietly. You don't need pesticides to protect your patch. Just plant borders that breathe. Let herbs stand as both defense and delight. Walk your garden and trace its edges. What if every boundary gave back? What if your defense was alive, green, fragrant, and kind? This is how a garden protects itself, not with poison, but with presence, not with fear, but with fragrance. Some gardens don't grow in fields or yards. They sprout between laundry racks and railings, tucked beside shoes and plastic chairs. This is where Bunda Rajika's balcony garden thrives. In a sliver of sunlight, just wide enough for hope to bloom. It began with a single pot, an old rice container, drilled at the bottom, filled with compost and courage. Into it, she planted mustard greens. They grew fast, drinking the morning light, softening the sharp angles of her urban view. Then came more, pak choy in a reused basin, chili in a paint bucket, basil in bottles that once held soy sauce. The balcony transformed, leaf by leaf, into a harvest hub, a daily ritual of picking, watering, watching. There's something deeply peaceful in these small spaces, the way hands move through leaves as if through pages, the sound of water dribbling onto thirsty soil, the way the scent of fresh mint drifts into the home. Neighbors from higher floors peek over the railing. Can vegetables really grow here? They ask. Bunda doesn't explain. She simply offers a sprig of rosemary or a handful of lettuce. That's her answer. A balcony is not a limit. It's a beginning. So if you're short on space, look up, look out, see the sliver of sky you do have. Then start with one pot, one seed, one morning of quiet tending. Soon, your balcony may speak a new language, the language of rustling leaves, homegrown dinners, and the gentle joy of harvesting where you once thought nothing could grow. In the rhythm of ordinary days, there's a quiet kind of pride that grows slowly, leaf by leaf, tucked into a corner garden where old bottles become beds and vegetables rise like secrets. Bunda Radhika's cabbage didn't begin in a field. It began in a jug, one of those thick plastic gallons that once held drinking water, cut open at the top, filled with composted soil, and placed by the wall where morning light lingers. Into that jug, she pressed a seedling, watched it take root, watched it swell with each watering, until one day, the leaves grew wide enough to shade the base, curling like soft armor around a tight, pale heart. The cabbage came slowly. It always does. It asks for care. It demands patience. But when harvest day arrived, the feeling was undeniable. She had grown something substantial, something nourishing, and all from a container most would discard. There is poetry in reuse, in giving purpose to plastic, in growing abundance where others see waste. The jug became cradle, the cabbage a gift. Neighbors passed by, eyebrows raised. From that, they asked, pointing. She nodded. From this, it's not just a planter. It's a proof. If you have an old jug, don't toss it. Cut it. Fill it. Plant into it. Watch what a cabbage can become in the least likely place. Let it remind you, you don't need a field to grow food. You need soil, sun, water, and belief. And when you slice into that crisp head in your kitchen, remember where it began, not on a farm, but in your hands. The eggplants don't lie. They tell of rich soil, tender patience, and the quiet rituals that begin before the sun has fully risen. In a corner of the yard, just beyond the herb patch and beneath the bamboo trellis, the first eggplant appeared, bold, glossy, and entirely unexpected. Bunda Radhika never intended to grow so many. She had only one seedling at first, tucked into a plastic sack lined with compost from kitchen scraps. But the plant grew tall and grateful, its leaves wide like umbrellas, its flowers delicate and lavender. Then came the fruit, deep purple, plump, and quietly magnificent. Harvest day feels like a quiet celebration. She kneels beside the plant, fingers brushing over the skin of each eggplant like reading Braille. Some are shaped like teardrops, others curled like commas. There is no perfect form, only the truth of their readiness. The joy isn't just in cooking them, though they'll soon become sambal turong or grilled and dressed in sesame oil. The joy lives in the knowing that from soil and light alone, something once bought weekly at the market now grows within reach. Just beyond the kitchen window, neighbors walk by and pause to peek over the fence, curious. "How many did you plant?" they ask. She smiles and offers them 1, 2, or 3. "Enough to share," she replies. And that's the magic of homegrown eggplants. They start as seeds but grow into stories of trial, of nurture, and of the quiet abundance waiting to be discovered in even the smallest garden space. Start with one plant. Listen closely. The eggplants will tell you what's possible. Some roots grow where you least expect them, in the smallest of spaces, beneath just a few inches of soil. Thick white radishes find their way downward, silent, determined, full of hidden strength. In Bunda Radhika's garden, the radish bed isn't really a bed at all. It's a soft, crumpled poly bag filled with soil she mixed herself. Part compost, part garden loam, part love. The bag sits humbly by the fence, no more than a foot wide. But inside, something remarkable is growing. She waters it lightly each morning, watching the green top stretch toward the light. The radishes below remain secret until their time comes. Then with a gentle tug, they rise, plump and earthy, trailing thin roots like ribbons. Not everyone is perfect. Some are twisted, some forked, but all are treasured. Bunda smiles as she brushes off the soil. "For my Soto," she says, and you understand. This isn't just gardening. It's preparation for nourishment, for memory, for the soup that warms her kitchen each weekend. The poly bag method is simple. Reuse a rice sack or old shopping bag. Make holes below. Add soft, loose soil. Choose seeds that want to go deep. Then wait, not impatiently, but tenderly. And when harvest comes, you won't just find food, you'll find proof that even in narrow containers, things can grow wide with purpose. The radish doesn't need a field, only space enough to root, just like us. So start your grow bag. Plant something that hides before it gives. And when you pull from the soil, let yourself be surprised by what waited quietly beneath. In a small garden, every inch matters. So Bunda Radhika learned to pair her crops like companions. One reaching for light, the other burrowing down in silence. Carrots and pak choi, root and leaf, a quiet balance beneath her fingertips. She planted them close, but not too close, in reused poly bags side by side. Pak choi sprouted first, fast and full, with bright green leaves that fluttered in the breeze. The carrots took longer. Hidden below, they swelled in darkness, quietly claiming their space. There's beauty in this rhythm. Above ground, a flourish. Below, a secret. When harvest time came, she lifted the pak choi easily, gathering handfuls for stir-fry. Then came the surprise. Pulling from the same soil, crooked, golden-tipped carrots emerged. Some long, some stubby, all touched with soil and story. They weren't perfect, but they were enough. And in their pairing, there was harmony, nutrients shared, sunlight split, roots weaving between roots. This is a joy of a root and leaf garden. Variety in a single space, nourishment in layers. It feeds both body and soul. Bunda didn't need rows of land, just a few bags, a bit of compost, the willingness to try. You can begin this too. A leafy green above, a root vegetable below. Let them grow together, each supporting the other without words. In time, your garden will reveal what lives beneath. Not just vegetables, but patience. Not just harvest, but a quiet understanding of how things grow better, side by side. Before the bees came back, the garden felt quiet, alive but still. Then one day, perhaps it was the first mustard flower or the lavender buds unfurling, something changed. A soft one began to rise in the mornings. Wings fluttered in golden light. And suddenly, the garden was no longer hers alone. Bunda Radhika didn't plan for pollinators. Not at first. She planned for food, for leaf, for fruit, for flavor. But by choosing organic care, by skipping the chemicals, she unknowingly sent out an invitation, and the garden answered. Now butterflies drift through beds of flowering basil and coriander. Bees trace careful paths from one blossom to the next, their legs dusted with yellow. Even dragonflies return, hovering like tiny sentinels above leafy greens. The air feels warmer somehow, more awake. She smiles when she sees it, life building upon life. A quiet proof that what's good for the soil is good for the soul. You don't need a large yard to do the same. Let a few vegetables flower. Add herbs that bloom like chives or mint. Skip the pesticide bottle. Use compost instead of synthetic fertilizer. Watch and wait. In time, you'll notice it too, not just in the flutter wings, but in the way the garden breathes again. It becomes not just a space for growing, but for welcoming, for giving back. And in those small, sunlit moments, when bee circles your hand and lands not in fear, but in trust, you'll remember this is nature as it once was, as it could be again. Gardens don't always start with new soil or shiny tools. Sometimes they begin with rubble, the leftover fragment of construction, the dusty blocks no one knows what to do with. That's how Bunda Radhika built her raised beds, not with purchases, but with purpose. She gathered hebble pieces from an abandoned site nearby, blocks with soft corners, faded edges, some chipped from time and weather. She stacked them slowly, side by side, like assembling a puzzle. No mortar, just gravity, balance, and hope. Into the hollow square she poured life. Compost from kitchen waste, garden soil rich from weeks of fermentation. Then came the seedlings, tiny, tender leaves of pak choi and mustard, nestled deep and watered well. The result? A garden that breeds resilience, strong in its roughness, beautiful in its imperfections. Neighbors noticed. Why not buy new materials? They asked, but Bunda only smiled. The plants don't mind, she replied. They just need a place to grow. And grow they did. The hebble blocks, though never intended as garden beds, now hold rows of vibrant green. They warm quickly under morning sun, protect the roots from trampling feet, and drain water just right. Some even sprout moss in the corners, a soft, accidental gift. If you have a few old bricks, a forgotten stack of blocks, or even broken tiles, consider this. A garden doesn't need perfection. It needs intention. Build something imperfect. Watch it come alive. And each time you harvest a leaf from that reclaimed bed, you'll remember beauty doesn't always come new. Sometimes it's what we rescue that grows the strongest. Some plants come easy. Others ask more of us. More time, more patience, more listening. Cauliflower is one of those. In Bunda Radhika's garden, it was the plant she struggled with the most. Season after season, it refused to show itself. Leaves thrived, but no crown. Hopes lifted, then softened. But she kept planting. Then one soft morning, there it was, nestled in the shade of its own leaves, like a secret, a firm white head, full, crisp, ready. She had grown cauliflower on her patio. Not in a field, not in rows, but in a reused container barely wider than a dinner plate. A miracle? No, a reward. The success wasn't in the size. It was in the persistence. Each morning, she had watered gently, adjusted its sunlight, fed it with compost made from her kitchen scraps, covered it with its own leaves to keep the crown white and tender. And it listened. Slowly it responded. When she finally harvested it, holding the heavy head in her palms, she felt the weight of more than just a vegetable. It was the weight of quiet effort, of learning, of care. If you've ever failed to grow something, don't stop. Try again. Adjust. Listen to your space. Cauliflower, like many good things, arrive slowly. Choose a deep pot. Keep the soil rich and cool. Let it have light, but shield the heart. Be patient. When it comes, it will feel like a gift, not just from the plant, but from yourself. A garden teaches you to trust the quiet work. And when the cauliflower finally blooms, you'll know sometimes the hard things are the most beautiful. There's a kind of joy that grows slowly, not in silence, but in soil. On warm mornings, when dew still clings to the edges of leafy greens, Bunda Radhika walks barefoot toward the garden. Her fingers know exactly what is ripe. The heads of lettuce loosen easily. The eggplants fall into her palms like little moons, and the pak choi leaves curl wide with pride. She fills her basket not just for the kitchen, but for something older than cooking, the ritual of sharing. By mid-morning, her front porch becomes a quiet gathering ground. Woven mats are rolled out, neighbors trickle in. One brings chili paste, another a thermos of tea. Children play with empty baskets and old watering cans while adults laugh and exchange cooking stories. Vegetables are divided not with rules, but with warmth. There is always more than enough when grown with care. In this shared space, no one is a guest. Everyone belongs. What once was just a patch of soil has become a thread in the neighborhood's memory. This is where harvest meets heart, where leafy bundles are exchanged for recipes, and hands reach out not for help, but for kinship. If you're planting your own garden, don't stop at the fence line. Let your crops cross into kindness. Set a stool on your porch, open your gate, and offer a sprig of basil or a bowl of greens. It isn't about abundance. It's about connection. A single harvest can nourish far more than a meal. And someday, when your own hands are full, a neighbor might arrive with a small gift of their own, fresh, fragrant, and freely given. Behind every healthy plant, there's a story buried in the soil. And in Bunda Radhika's garden, that story begins in the compost corner, a quiet place where waste finds new purpose, and life rises slowly from what's been tossed aside. At first glance, it doesn't look special. Just a black plastic drum placed in a shady patch, half filled with onion skins, banana peels, and yesterday's spinach stems. But if you look closer, if you wait, you'll see it working, breathing, transforming. She layers carefully, greens from the kitchen, browns from fallen leaves, a sprinkle of soil, and patience. There is no rush. Compost, like trust, builds over time. The scent shifts from sharp to sweetly earthy. The texture becomes crumbly. Warmth rises from within. To some, it may seem messy, but here it is sacred. This is where nothing is wasted, where yesterday's dinner scraps feed tomorrow's garden bed. Even a small yard has space for this. A corner near a wall, an old bucket with holes, a wooden crate tucked behind the house. What matters is not the container, but the care. And with each scoop of rich, dark compost added back into the soil, the cycle continues. Leaf to table, table to soil, soil to seed again. Bunda teaches the neighbor's children how to stir it gently, how to tell when it's ready. She calls it black gold, and rightly so. It feeds the plants that feed the people, quietly, completely, and without cost. So start your own corner. Begin with a peel, a handful of leaves, and a little faith. You'll find that even your smallest scraps can nourish something far bigger than themselves. Sometimes, the most hopeful thing you can do is not throw something away. Bunda Rajika learned this long ago, that even in the humblest plastic waste, there's a place for life to grow. Her garden doesn't sparkle with store-bought pots or designer beds. Instead, it's a quiet mosaic of what others left behind. Yogurt tubs, cut open soda bottles, snack jars with their labels faded by rain. Each one now holds a small living thing. She begins by washing them clean, cutting carefully, and punching holes at the base. Then she adds layers. Dry leaves, compost, soil, the recipe her hands remember by feel. Into this, a seedling, sometimes chili, sometimes mint, sometimes a leafy green her children love. What was once trash now carries color, scent, and nourishment. The contrast is striking. Clear plastic hugging black soil, bright green leaves reaching through repurposed lids. It's not just reuse. It's a philosophy, a gentle refusal to waste, and a belief that value can be found, if only we look with soft eyes. Passers-by sometimes chuckle. So many odd pots, they say, but Bunda only smiles. My garden is proof, she replies, that growth doesn't care how you begin, only that you do. You don't need perfect tools. Start with what you have. An old bottle, a container headed for the bin. Let it carry something alive. You'll soon find that your small act of saving creates something larger, a place where hope grows out of plastic, and your garden becomes a testament to quiet creativity. In a home where meals repeat and rhythms turn routine, Bunda Rajika knew the garden could offer more than sustenance. It could offer surprise. So she planted with color in mind, with children in mind, with joy in mind. Purple eggplants, striped like twilight, bright green pak choi, soft and crisp. Peppers that ripen from lime to fire red. Tomatoes in gold and scarlet. Her veggie patch became a palette, not of paint, but of promise. Each day, the children wandered into this world of shape and shade. Can we pick this one today? They'd ask, pointing at a new hue. They didn't know names, only colors, only taste, only the thrill of tugging a carrot free and laughing at its crooked legs. Bunda didn't follow rows or systems. She followed curiosity. If her kids liked it, she planted more. If they grew bored, she tried something new. And slowly, the garden became theirs, a place of learning, tasting, delight. Dinner no longer began in the kitchen. It began outside, with hands in soil and questions like, what if we stir-fried the purple ones? Can we eat the flowers too? This patch, small, uneven, built from leftovers, brought new flavor to old meals, and new wonder to growing minds. You don't need much to build your own. Just a few pots, a handful of seeds, and a heart that listens to what your family craves. Not just for food, but for play, for color, for involvement. Plan a rainbow. Let the kids choose. Let the patch surprise you. Because sometimes the best meals begin not with recipes, but with what your children bring in from the garden, still warm from sun. There was a time when the space held only silence. Overgrown grass, shards of glass, whispers of snakes in the tall weeds. No one walked here, only avoided. The ground seemed forgotten, a patch of earth resigned to waste. But Bunda Radhika saw something else. One morning, broom in hand, she began. The clearing took days. Piles of weeds, bags of trash. The earth revealed itself slowly, like a sleeping face under dust. Neighbors watched curiously. Why bother? Some asked. She answered only with her hands. Raised beds took shape. Soil darkened with compost. Old bricks formed pathways. One by one, seeds found their place. Kangkung, spinach, tomatoes, chili. Slowly, the wild turned edible. The forgotten began to bloom. And with it, the space changed. Birds returned. Children peeked through fences. Butterflies circled morning blooms. The danger disappeared. What remained was life. The lot, once abandoned, became a rhythm. Water in the morning, harvest in the afternoon, laughter in between. A place that no longer repelled, but welcomed. Bunda Radhika named it not after herself, but after what it had become. A garden of purpose. You don't need to own land to tend it. You need eyes that see what could be, hands willing to kneel, and the patience to wait for roots. Look around. Is there a forgotten place near you? A weedy patch, a corner lot, a stretch no one claims? Start small. One bag of weeds, one seed, one afternoon of effort. And one day, you may walk through what was once abandoned and eat from it. That's the quiet power of reclaiming space, of saying, this ground is still good. The garden isn't just a place to feed the stomach. It's a place to feed wonder. For Bunda Radhika, leafy greens came first. But it was the fruit, the bright burst of sweetness among the greens, that kept her children running back to the garden with gleaming eyes and muddy knees. She started small. A potted strawberry here, a guava sapling there. Dwarf varieties, chosen not for abundance but for nearness. Something her children could see, touch, taste. When they picked their first ripe berry, they didn't just harvest fruit. They harvested joy. Fruit in a tiny space demands care and creativity. She reused large containers, broken buckets, painted oil drums, filled them with rich compost, and nestled in each baby tree like it was a secret waiting to bloom. Some took months, others seasons. But the day the first passion fruit hung heavy on its vine, the wait was forgotten. Now, the garden hums with variety. Lettuce, basil, eggplant, yes, but also lemon balm, figs, tomatoes so sweet they never reached the kitchen. And the children, they no longer ask, what's for lunch? They ask, can I pick it myself? This is the gift of the family fruit patch. It's not measured in kilos, but in stories. In fingers stained with strawberry juice. In laughter shared under the shade of a papaya leaf. If your garden feels too small for fruit, start anyway. One pot, one stem, one season. Let the sweetness arrive slowly, as all good things do. Some gardens fight their battles quietly. There are no traps, no poisons, no sprays. Only scent rhythm and the gentle wisdom of plants that know how to live together. In Bunda Radhika's garden, pests like rats once roamed freely, nibbling at tender shoots. But she didn't reach for chemicals. She reached for herbs. Lemongrass, with its tall blades and citrus perfume. Basil, soft and sharp in equal measure. Mint, quick to root and eager to claim space. She planted them between her vegetables, a living fence, not a block, but confuse, deter, and gently guide. This is her alternating herb row system. Each line of pak choi or mustard is softened by a companion herb. The garden breeds in layers. Leafy green, aromatic tall, leafy green again. It's beautiful, but more than that, it's balanced. The scent alone is enough to turn curious noses away. Rats, who once crept under cover at dusk, now skip this space. Their instincts recoil by lemongrass. Their tracks diverted by mint, and as the pests retreat, the pollinators come. Bees and butterflies dance from basil bloom to basil bloom. Even dragonflies pause to rest on mint leaves, as if recognizing peace. This method is not loud. It doesn't promise instant perfection, but it works steadily, quietly, organically. And the best part? The herbs are harvestable, too. A bundle of basil in the kitchen, a lemongrass stalk in soup, mint for tea at dusk. So plant your rows with rhythm. Listen to what the plants say when they live together. And let your garden fight its battles not with harm, but with harmony. It begins with a harvest, but ends with a feast. Not the grand kind with linen and silverware, but one built from heart, hands, and habit. The kind that happens when neighbors no longer knock, but simply arrive. In Bunda Rajka's garden, after the sun dips low and the last cucumber is picked, the front porch transforms. Mats are unrolled on the ground. The rice steams in its pot, and the smell of garlic sauté and coconut oil drifts between laughter and conversation. This is Batram, the garden feast shared under open skies. Eggplants roasted earlier are now softened with sambal. Fresh packed choy is tossed in sesame oil. There's rice, of course, and always a simple soup, perhaps with carrot, perhaps with ginger. No one brings extravagance. Only enough, only what they've grown or made that day. Children giggle as they reach for warm banana fritters. Elders sip sweet tea from mismatched glasses. Plates clatter gently. It is ordinary. It is sacred. What began as a desire to feed one's family now feeds circle. A community. A memory. This isn't just food. It is living proof that a garden doesn't end at the fence. Its roots reach into friendship, into laughter, into the gentle joy of eating together. Even if your space is small, what you grow can be wide enough for others. Start with a patch of soil. Plant with generosity. And when the harvest comes, set one more plate. You'll find that food grown by hand tastes best when shared. Not because of seasoning, but because of connection. The garden didn't end at the fence. Bunda Rajka knew that. What she grew didn't just feed her family. It fed stories, questions, courage. And so she began to share. At first it was quiet. A photo here, a short video there. A caption not about perfection, but about process. How she used old buckets. How the mint grew wild. How her cauliflower finally came after failing 3 times. People noticed. Some laughed. Why show your dirt? They asked. But others leaned in. They whispered thanks. They planted their first seeds. And slowly, the garden grew beyond soil. It grew through screens, across walls, into other hands. Now, her phone sits propped on a small rock beside the lemongrass. When she waters in the morning, her viewers come too. When she harvests mustard, she speaks gently, as if to friends sitting nearby. This is her garden inspiration wall, not built of bricks, but of moments shared, of lessons sown digitally, rooted in real earth. You don't need a big platform to begin. You need a plant, a story, a wish that someone, somewhere, might grow because you showed them how. So post a crooked carrot. Share the bloom you didn't expect. Film the compost turning, the beetle crawling, the basil in the wind. Let others see what is real, not curated, but cared for, because gardens teach us. And when we share them, we grow not just plants, but people connected by soil, story, and screen. Your garden isn't too small to inspire. It only needs your voice. Before the harvest, there is always a visit, a soft wing brushing a petal, a shimmer in the morning air. Bunda Rajka noticed this one day as she stood barefoot by her vegetable patch. The garden, she realized, had begun to hum. The flowers had called them. Zinnias planted for beauty became messengers. Marigolds, tucked between mustard rows, opened like gold buttons. Cosmo stretched tall beside her lemongrass, dancing gently in the breeze. And in return, the butterflies came. The bees returned. Even a pair of dragonflies rested on her watering pail. This wasn't accidental. It was invitation. She didn't separate the flowers from the food. She wove them in. Each edge, each gap between vegetables was filled with color and scent, bright and living. The pollinators responded. Her garden, once quiet and green, now shimmered with motion. There's something healing about this blend. The vegetables feed the body. The flowers feed everything else, the eye, the spirit, the sky. And the garden gives more. More fruit, more seed, more life. It's a simple practice. Scatter calendula among your lettuce. Let nasturtium climb the corners. Plant basil in time for bees as much as for soup. These are not decorations. They are welcome signs to the insects who serve the soil and sky. Bunda rajica often pauses now. When a butterfly lands on her shoulder, she smiles. Thank you, she whispers, because this, too, is gardening, not just growing, but hosting. So make your garden a place of invitation. Let it bloom where it feeds. Let it dance where it roots. You'll find that when the butterflies come, everything else blossoms in their wake. In a corner where the wall met shadow, Bunda rajica saw possibility, not in the open earth, but in the vertical space no one noticed. There, against brick and breeze, she leaned an old wooden pallet, worn and splintered from years of delivery duty. She ran her hand across its rough grain. This, she thought, could hold more than weight. It could hold life. With a hammer, some nails, and leftover containers, she built her garden upward, shelves where there once was emptiness. Leafy greens cascading like books on display. Pak choy on top, mustard in the middle, lettuce catching drops below. Each morning, she watered from above. The runoff fell in threads, feeding every layer. Each tear soaked in sunlight at a slightly different angle, and each plant learned to thrive in its place. It was tidy, efficient, beautiful. Visitors marveled. You built this, they asked. She nodded. From scraps. She said it proudly, not humbly, because what the world throws away often builds the strongest things. This rack, patched uneven, handmade, gave her a triple harvest in the space of one. It was more than storage. It was a statement that you don't need land. You don't need money. You don't need symmetry. You need a wall, a pallet, and the belief that greens can grow anywhere light touches. So look at your corners, your walls, your narrow passages. Could they hold shelves? Could they hold seedlings? Stack them gently, tend them daily, and watch your food rise not just from the ground, but from your own ingenuity.